The guy that I wrote with, Dan Couch, one of my dearest friends, he has a family, and then Dave Lapsley, who I'm super close with, that plays guitar in my band. I met Dave right when I moved to town, and Dave and I used to really hit the town hard together. He was my wild running mate. Dave settled down and got married, and about 3 years ago, Dave's wife, said told him she was pregnant, and at that time we were still in that bubble of not yet getting I didn't have a record deal yet, and he was still trying to grind it out with me. And he kind of came to me and was like, my wife's pregnant, I've got a kid on the way. We got to make this thing happen now. And there was a whole nother dimension to Dave. All of a sudden, Dave was really serious about providing for this family. He was like, if something doesn't happen soon, I'm gonna have to quit playing and go get a steady job. And that struck me pretty hard, man, because Dave was my brother. So I went in and was talking with it about Dan and his family and how much his family means to him. And even though I don't have a wife and kids, it just made me really think about that. And even though I don't want it yet, what I hope to feel and have one day, and I wanted to capture that the best that I could. So that's why I sat down and wrote Hey Pretty Girl, for what I hope to have one day. Really try to write everything that I do as honest as I can. So many times, songwriters, we get in our own way of trying to put it in so many different kinds of ways that it doesn't feel relatable for people. And I've always tried to write it straightforward and speak it. And I think that's why this song is translating so much, because it's authentic and real through the whole thing. Springsteen's a huge influence for me. If I'm being honest, I feel like the Springsteen records and the Bob Dylan records saved me in a lot of ways. I rediscovered my love for those guys when it was probably 7 or 8 years ago, and it just took me to a whole nother level. And I think that through time, that's how all musicians have been. Dylan rubbed off a little bit on Springsteen, and Springsteen has rubbed off on me a little bit. And I think it's just, which is the great thing about music. Some people take stuff from Otis Redding and Sam Cooke and those guys, and it just kind of filters through. And Springsteen has definitely been one of those guys for me. Jackson Browne, Chris Christopherson, and Willie Nelson, and kind of rubbed off on me, and I think it's a good thing. Willie Nelson, for sure. My mom used to play Red-Headed Stranger a million times on trips when I was a little kid. Sunday Morning Coming Down is one of my favorites of all time. I've really felt like I've been able to relate to that song probably more than any country song ever. Especially just as many times as I've moved to different cities by myself and having to start over and feeling that lonesome feeling that song provides. I'd say those two, and then I'd say in the modern day I have a big respect for the way Church has done it. I know he's gone through the grind in a similar fashion, the way I feel like I have at times, just getting kicked in the teeth for so many years, and now he's on top, and I applaud him for that, man. And I think the integrity of his music is great. So he's one of the guys that I in the modern times that I really dig. The next record is going to be completely different. I can't wait for people to hear what's coming next, because it's still going to fit in me and what I do, but it's going to be so different than this first record, because my life is different. That was what I was experiencing at that time. Things like Crazy One More Time and Up All Night, and this next one is going to be a different kind of thing, because my life has changed a lot. So actually going to have a song on the record called New York City that I wrote the night before playing the Bowery Ballroom, because I've been coming here now for the last 2 years, and as you and I were talking before the interview, as massive as the city is, and it's so alive and it's so great, and for a guy like me coming from such a small town, it can just gobble you up, man. And I get so overwhelmed sometimes walking outside, and I look like the most confused individual on the block, And I got back to my room after having a fun night, but it was the most lonely feeling I had ever felt in that moment, looking out the hotel window. Maybe it was just from being on the road for so long, and then the city being so large, and I wrote one of my favorite songs I've ever written called New York City that I'll play a couple nights from now at Webster Hall, and I can't wait to play it for everybody.